There we go. Well, so thanks for joining us for Feed Your Mind today. We're very excited to have a very special guest who's going to be sharing with us today. And as we get started with this, we do want to thank Mediacom Business, who is our sponsor for the Feed Your Mind series. And today we have Tom Boyle, who is representing Mediacom, who's joining us today. So Tom, I'll let you say a few words about Mediacom Business.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be part of the forum. I guess I wasn't prepared to present today, but briefly, Mediacom, it's a common misconception that Mediacom is a cable TV company, when in fact, the bulk of our business and the future of our company is broadband internet services. We are a market leader in each of the markets that we operate in. We operate in all or parts of 23 different states, with Iowa being our largest concentration of business. So my team supports small, medium, and enterprise business customers, as well as government and education.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Tom. Glad you could be here to represent Mediacom today. And like I usually say, I'm just such a happy customer of Mediacom Business. Had a situation last year where suddenly the entire family was stuck at home trying to do online school and business all at the same time, and reached out to Holly, who is our representative with the Chamber. And she was able to get me connected on the internet, and it has met our needs and been a wonderful experience. So I am a proud customer of Mediacom Business. So I got to throw that out there too.
Well, we appreciate hearing that. And, you know, our staff throughout the pandemic, if you will, has worked overtime, because we basically recognize that we're an essential part of the U.S. economy, and we take that mandate very seriously.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And so moving on with our programming for today then, Krista Lindholm is here with us. She is our chamber representative from Oasis and was able to secure our presenter today. And I know this is going to be a wonderful topic. I'm looking forward to this. But Krista, I'll let you introduce Donna today.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the 2021 Priorities for Business Leaders. Today, we're going to be reviewing some results from an Oasis survey that shares some insights, and we're going to share some ideas to help your business become successful for this year. Like Daniel said, my name is Krista Lindholm, and I will be your host. I am a business development manager with Oasis. And sorry, my headset just popped in and out. Sorry about that. But anyway, I'm also a member of FuseDSM, the Chamber of Commerce. So just a couple of quick housekeeping things. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will try to address those questions at the end. Just a quick disclaimer: the information today is meant to be informational. If you need any legal advice, please reach out to your legal representatives. Again, it's just meant to be informational today. But I would like to take the opportunity to introduce you to our presenter today, Donna Meek. She is a senior manager with PEO services at Oasis. She comes to us today with almost 25 years of PEO experience. She's been an amazing leader for the organization. She works very closely with companies and has done a wonderful job helping businesses grow and thrive and succeed. She's very passionate in helping these customers. And with this whole COVID-19 pandemic, she's really worked hard with business owners to help them try and understand the complicated laws and regulations that are out there, and so that customers can best evaluate what their options are and their choices are in preparing their business for the future. So, the presentation, yes, is brought to you by Oasis today. We are a professional employer organization and a trusted leader an advisor in the PEO industry. Being part of Paychex, we have some great size and many years of experience. We service 1.5 million worksite employees. We're a national provider with a local presence. And we also combined, we have over 52,000 clients and over 15,000 in the PEO sector. We take security very, very seriously. We have obtained our SOX 1 Type 2 compliance. We're a member of NAPIO, which is the National Association of PEOs. We are bonded and accredited through ESAC, which is the Employer Services Assurance Corporation, which in the PEO industry is basically like getting that gold standard for best practices and financial reliability. And we're also IRS certified. So Donna, if you would like to maybe share a few more words as far as the relationship between Paychex and Oasis.
Sure. Let me see if I can get my screen to touch. It's not moving for some reason. There we go. So yeah, so Oasis, that now that we have a little bit, a better picture of what Oasis is a Paychex company. So I wanted to share with you the relationship between Oasis and Paychex. Oasis was the largest privately held PEO and was acquired by Paychex in 2018. And that created the second largest PEO in the nation. And with the combined industry expertise of Oasis with all the strength and the financial stability and the expertise, then Oasis is one of the most robust professional employer organizations and provider of HR outsourcing in the industry. Paychex services over 670,000 clients and pays over 9.5 million employees annually, and has one of the largest teams of HR experts with 600 professionals nationally and top technology platforms with multiple awards. And for the 10th consecutive year is the largest provider of the 401k record keeping plans in the nation. Chris, I'll turn it back to you to kind of go over our agenda for today.
Okay, so throughout this 60-minute, give or take, webinar today, we're going to be covering the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on businesses, current business challenges, use of technology to aid efficiencies, challenges that lie ahead, conquering 2021, and then hope at the end we'll have a little bit of time to answer any additional questions that you joining us may have. So at this point, Donna, this is your show. Right. We appreciate it today.
Thanks, Krista. And yes, and we will allow some time at the end to ask questions. And if you want to chat those in, like Krista said, it's great. But if there is an opportunity, you do want to interrupt me for some reason, this is very informative. We can make it very interactive if you see something that comes up that you really want to know more about. So before we get started, I wanted to tell you more about the survey. The presentation is going to draw from the results of a recent survey that was conducted. It's a national survey with 300 business leaders who employed between 5 to 99 employees, and they're from a broad cross-section of industries. So this was between December 2nd to December 8th. The online interviews took place by Braden, an independent market research company that's located in Boston. And the 2019 and 2018 surveys were completed during similar periods and were conducted online by the National Web Panel of SSRS, another independent market research company. So with that, we'll just jump right into the results and give you some insights that can really help you with your business based on the insights that we gain from these surveys. So how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted your business? So that was the question that was asked amongst these 300 businesses. And the way businesses pivoted and adjusted in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic has really changed the trajectory of what 2021 looks like. And the year ahead will be one where flexibility and agility are important to remain viable. Business leaders will likely need to address new priorities to maintain profitability while being creative and resourceful to help keep employees and customers safe. The way work gets done by whom and how has, as you know, been forever affected by this past year. More people are working from home. Business models have innovated. There's been an exodus of parents, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the webinar, mainly women, and how it's impacted, working from home and their work life from the workforce due to carrying like responsibilities and the demand for flexibility. is now considered a benefit rather than a necessity to get work done. Also, hybrid workplaces, you'll probably start to see a lot of articles on having a hybrid workplace and how do you handle that and keep it fair between the employees. So that's something I actually just read an article on this morning. It was very interesting. So, probably does not surprise you that, as you see here, that 61% of business leaders said their general stress level is higher than before COVID-19 pandemic, with 21% feeling much more stressed. The business owners said that they believed their employees were experiencing similar stress levels, with responses at 60% and 22%. Women were more likely to report feeling higher levels of stress than men, and those aged between 40 and 55 reported feeling the most stressed, which was about 68% compared to other age groups. 44% of leaders said that I am now aware of my employee stress levels now more than ever before COVID-19. So not sure, and if you can see a statement here online, but that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing with a lot of our clients we're working with, is that, there's being prepared mentally to deal with staying home or having to deal with multiple activities going on in your home when you're trying to work, or even trying to get to work, and when you're at work, making sure that you're safe and that you're following, like wearing a mask and all the different things that are protocols. So it's really changed. And that's really a big stress for business owners as well. The impact of COVID-19 has resulted in prolonged social distancing, forced remote work, and massive job losses, significant deaths, and an economic recession, all of which have affected the mental health of employees. To understand more, we also surveyed 1,000 employees in a separate survey and learned 51% said their mental health had worsened during the pandemic. On-site workers are more stressed than remote workers, obviously. That was 63% compared to 35%. And then 1/3 said that they are having difficulty working at their typical level of productivity. The respondents believe that helpful ways that employers can support their mental health is by working remotely and encourage work-life balance, or shorten work days and allow for flexible schedules. Mental health has become extremely important for employers to address year-round, but especially in the face of the pandemic. So what can you do to help your employees to reduce stress and to help prevent burnout? So I'm going to provide you some of these 5 steps to maybe help with preventing that burnout, because that's become extremely important. Openly address the situation. So first and foremost, talk with your employees and acknowledge the reality of today's working situation, and ask them to tune in into how they feel about it. Discuss the implications for their work and their life balance, and openly acknowledge the stressors that they have. Secondly, explore the health benefits available. So by working with a company like Oasis, a professional employer organization, you can have access to robust health benefits, such as employee assistance programs and other programs like stress management, to help employees get the support they need for mental health. So these are things that you can offer as a benefit to your employees. Set boundaries. Be very transparent with employees about what's expected, when and where and how it's expected. Be explicit about the top priorities for you in the business. Be realistic and have honest conversations with employees about caregiving and home responsibilities. And don't expect anyone, including yourself as a business owner, to be available 24/7. And that's just going to continue to add to the burnout and to the stress. Be flexible. Experience has shown that jobs can flex in some way, such as what some people have done from working from home, but consider precisely how specific jobs can flex productively for the business and individual employees to help them be successful during the pandemic and perhaps in the long term. So assessing what their particular situation is in regards to their home life, if they have kids that need to be homeschooling, or they're still at homeschooling, and the situations that they need to help make them be more productive. And then most importantly is show up and be present. When it's time to connect with your employees, be fully present by zeroing in on what they are saying and sharing. So allow time in your schedule for personal interactions and encourage employees to do the same. Sharing human connections is more meaningful expression of care than understanding, than providing lavish gifts and bonuses. Even if it's just like a quick note through a WebEx chat or through an email or through a text message, just to ask them how they're doing. That goes a long ways. So our survey respondents also shared that employee productivity and engagement are higher priorities now than a year ago. So compared to what I'd mentioned earlier, the 2018 and the 2019 data that we had. So 47% of respondents said that keeping employees engaged and productive is high priority now, as it was at the start of 2020, with 16% reporting it's a much higher priority. Turnover was not much of an issue for most of the survey respondents. 42% did not believe their employee turnover had increased as a result of the pandemic. 58% of respondents said their unwanted turnover was less than 10% compared to 52% in the 2019 study. Unwanted turnover increases with company size. So for example, only 5% of very small businesses have 20% to 30% annual unwanted turnover versus 20% of the medium-sized businesses. So in years past, turnover was an issue. And of course, as you'll see in some of the later slides, hiring was one of the number one, finding great candidates and hiring has been number one priorities for the last 2 years up until this year. Engaged employees can help businesses succeed because they're more likely to contribute to the organization at a higher level. And if they engage, they're likely to stay longer. It's important more now than ever to get feedback from employee surveys, focus on setting up great onboarding experiences for new employees, and make sure you communicate the expectation of the job through, job descriptions that the employee can see and review. Attracting the right fit, communicate a clear vision about the company, and provide career development and learning programs as recognition programs. These are all very important into this day and age to keep your employees really engaged. So we also learned that employees and business leaders chose to relocate during the pandemic. I thought this was quite interesting. You may have seen this in the area where you live, where people are choosing to move from more urban and highly populated areas to less dense and more open space. I'm not sure in Iowa how much of this you've seen, but I know in Texas I've seen a lot of this due to the fact that in the city it was harder to get around because of the traffic, and people thought they could live out and get the same caliber of a house that was less expensive in a less populated area and still be able to work and do their jobs. And so because of the working remotely, a lot of businesses have pivoted to that. They thought that this was going to be a way that they could really have a better work-life balance. And 16% of business leaders said that at least one of their employees moved during the pandemic, with 3% moving out of state, and 13% of the business leaders said that they had moved themselves. So I thought that was really interesting that people took the opportunity during 2020 to do some of that. And it said, remote work is here to stay, freeing up traditional work models to allow for greater flexibility, and that 26% of leaders said hiring remote workers has become a higher priority now for their business. So it's also opened up a great talent pool. If you're in a specific industry that we're not able to get in your area, a select, maybe there was only a select few people that had that specific talent. It opened it up because you can, you have a bigger pool if they're working remotely, and you can have them join your team wherever you're located. So a variety of communication facilitates the productivity, and we wanted to get a feel for the day in the life of the business leaders and the communication methods they have rolled out during the pandemic. I know, Tom, you had mentioned something earlier when we were on about you're using Cisco or WebEx, is that WebEx Teams or something like that? And I know that's what we're using at Oasis, and we can communicate and chat with our employees. That has become one of the most important factors and being able to really communicate and have everybody, and building groups and teams that can communicate at the same time without having to go to email, and to get things done quickly and to have people engaged and interact with each other. We've learned from all the methods available that slightly more emphasis on emails and phone calls. So that we're not emphasizing, phone calls as much as we were prior to the pandemic, and that younger workers, and this is interesting here, between ages of 19 to 39, were much more likely to use chat or instant messaging. That was about 15% of the groups that were surveyed, and that video conferencing, 20% were then workers between the ages of 56 or more. So workers aged 40 to 55 and 56 plus relied most heavily on email. So as we get into, I think there's a statistic out there that says like 75% of the workforce will be millennials by the year 2025. We're not far from there. So this just goes to show between the ages of 19 to 39, on top of the pandemic and the next generation that's coming up, what kind of methods they want to be more productive and to be engaged and to communicate within the business. And it says video conferencing is here to stay. So more virtual meetings for us, right? 66% of business leaders said they use video conferencing more now than prior to the pandemic, and 39% believe they will continue to use it with their employees and customers after the pandemic. And only 13% of the respondents said that they are participating in more in-person meetings now. So obviously a lot of meetings have pivoted to even conferences and conventions. And I mean, I can't tell you how many things I get invited to now that's like, there's a lot of virtual meetings happening. And I think that they will continue to at least happen through the rest of this year and probably become a common practice throughout the next few years. So what challenges are currently impacting your business? Outside of the pandemic, we also wanted to look at the current business challenges that the survey respondents were facing. And the number one challenge facing all business leaders, and so I'm going to go ahead and share with these top 3 current challenges. Sorry, something was beeping on the screen. I'm not sure if it's something I'm supposed to do. Okay. So outside of the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, we wanted to get a pulse on other issues affecting small business. We don't want to just look at, during COVID-19. So as you can see here, the top 3 current challenges: attracting strong, competent talent and dedicated staff that has been the number one challenge reported in our surveys for the past 3 years. So that has been number one for a pretty long time, and finding that talent has been difficult. Business leaders who anticipate fast growth in the year ahead reported this issue 3 times more of a serious problem than those expecting slow growth. In particular, I'd like to call out to your attention just how important it is to be intentional about how you attract and retain working parents. The need for streamlining job postings and applicant tracking with options to text or do video interviews will continue to increase. And at Oasis, we obviously can manage the entire life cycle of the employee, and that's become extremely important, where from the actual time you interview to hire, all the way through to onboarding and to offboarding throughout the entire life cycle of the employee. So being intentional about attracting and retaining working parents, and I know that was something I said on the previous slide, because obviously it's a challenge to find good candidates. The pressure of COVID-19 pandemic and the new work environments may cause some parents to leave the workforce. And according to the recent survey that we had permission to use, women are 1.3 times more likely than men to consider leaving the workforce. And there's starting to be all kinds of blog posts and content about this in different HR, like HR magazines and Today. And this has been a very big topic of conversation. The study predicts that if women continue to leave the workforce at these rates, corporate America could lose more than 2 million women in the workforce, more than the number of women who graduate from college or graduate programs each year, and more than 100,000 women in senior leadership roles in short term. And according to the survey, because of COVID-19 pandemic has caused many working mothers to absorb the amount of childcare and homeschooling responsibilities, and mothers that have children under the age of 10 that are in a dual career couples are twice as likely as men in the same situation to spend more than 5 additional hours a day on household responsibilities before COVID-19. So 1 in 4 senior women have considered stepping out or slowing down in their careers. To attract and retain working parents, employers need to be intentional about their approach to this demographic and the realities of the work and family responsibilities. So I know that there's not even just this conversation, but you guys are probably seeing a lot about diversity and in California. And I was just on a call this morning about in California, and there's other states adopting this, the pay equity for men and women, and having a good amount of women and men in the workforce, as well as, race, right? The different races. So we want to make sure that we continue to make it adaptable for women to continue to be in these senior leadership roles in order to be able to accommodate the things that they have in their household as well because of the pandemic. Here's what business owners are saying. 67% of small business leaders reported spending up to 10 hours a week on HR duties, with 24% spending 11 to 20 hours a week. Time spent on HR administration increases with company size from 5 or fewer hours per week for small businesses and 11 to 15 hours a week for mid-sized businesses. The respondents shared their number one challenge in managing employees is that employees have personal issues that sometimes conflict with the work. So, so another reason that businesses are outsourcing due to all the HR responsibilities that they have to deal with. And so how does technology aid in the business efficiency? So like we mentioned earlier, the pandemic has accelerated the tech use, and 45% of leaders reported that the pandemic has forced them to adopt technology faster than they would have otherwise. 36% said enhancing our technology has become a higher priority as a result of the pandemic. And yet 1/3 said they try to utilize it, but there's still some gaps in the knowledge as to how it can be most effective. This response was consistent with prior surveys over the past 3 years. So interesting that the survey respondents reported using an average of 2 to 3 different systems to manage HR administration. Younger companies in operation for fewer than 10 years reported using a mean of 4 systems compared to 2 used by companies that have been operating 10 or more years. So business leaders anticipating growth in the year ahead used an average of 5 systems to manage their HR administration tasks and duties. So it's pretty common for us to see that they've partnered with maybe 4 or 5 different tech platforms in order to accomplish what they need to be able to have their employees engaged and to be able to onboard and to be able to communicate. A lot of different things that they're trying to do and accomplish by using all these multiple systems. I even see a lot of Excel spreadsheets being used to try to track data and to try to provide EEO-1 reporting and all sorts of stuff. Oasis provides the HR outsourcing services to support clients through the entire life cycle and includes the payroll processing and the benefits administration, risk mitigation, regulatory compliance, and all those things that require all those different technology platforms. So what challenges lie ahead? As we look to the future, we ask the business leaders what their greatest challenges are that they expect over the next 12 months. And here's what we learned. So previously on a couple of slides back, we looked at what it looked like outside of the pandemic, and now compared to the past year, what is the percentage of what's most challenging will become more challenging in the years in the next 12 months. So according to the survey results, workplace safety now is the number one prior to the top priority before COVID over the next 12 months. As you can expect, people are trying to figure out how to make their workplaces a safer environment to accommodate. Even vaccinations has become a topic of conversation of, can they require it? Do they need to require it? How do they monitor who's had their vaccinations, who hasn't? So you can see that's at top of mind for a lot of the business owners today, and that's the number one priority. Now, of course, developing employers and offering competitive benefits, and you see down here on the fourth bullet point, attracting strong, competent management and dedicated capital is still at a very high percentage but you can see the differences in where it ran in 2019 to 2018. And most business leaders are not planning to change their staffing model in the next 12 months. So 34% reported plans to hire moderately, and only 8% are planning to do some job cuts. That's good news. 23% of very small businesses expect to hire in the next 12 months versus 43% of small business and 50% of medium-sized businesses. So there's very moderate hiring being planned according to the survey. So we also explored the business leaders to get help with their HR responsibilities and what that looks like and what's most important to them. Nearly 1/3 of the survey participants said we are more likely to outsource HR functions as a result of COVID-19, and 42% that they were very or somewhat likely to outsource HR administration in the next 12 months. This is nearly twice as many of those who responded in 2019 and more than twice as many of those who responded in 2018. So 69% of business leaders anticipating fast growth in the year ahead said they plan to outsource, compared to 41% of those expecting slow growth. And the main reason to outsource HR administration was now we see the value of outsourcing. The most in-demand tasks to outsource this year included, as you can see here, is payroll administration, 401k, and benefits administration. They're obviously 71% compared to 58% in 2018 are looking to outsource their payroll administration. A lot of this had to do with having to pivot quickly to get your loan applications processed and then be able to figure out how to pay out the Family First coronavirus credits to your and get those credits from your payrolls, and then also for employer retention credits. And you'll know that that's kind of a topic of conversation right now for retro and for current year. So without question, this year will continue to be challenging as employers adjust to the long-term impact of COVID-19, and for almost all employers, but especially for small businesses. Some industries were hit harder than others. Consider restaurants compared to professional services, or hospitality and tourism compared to banking. But no matter what industry you work in, all businesses continue to change and adapt to new regulations and local and state mandates as they evolve. All employees have been impacted in some way, bringing people management practices front and center for the priorities that business leaders need to address in the year ahead. So one thing is certain as we proceed with our business in 2021, flexibility and agility will remain the top priorities, along with keeping employees safe. The pandemic is not over, and even though we now have vaccines being implemented across the country at a steady rate, we still need to be prepared for the marathon, not a sprint. So the one area of big concern, I think that's on a lot of business owners' minds, is the impact on state unemployment insurance tax rates. So unfortunately, many businesses will need to pay higher payroll taxes starting in 2021 to replenish the trust funds used for unemployment benefits. So unemployment benefits are primarily financed through the quarterly assessment of taxes on an employer's taxable wages. So as a result of workforce layoffs stemming from the impact of COVID-19 on many businesses, unemployment claims are at record levels. This is expected to have a negative impact on business leaders in the future for the state unemployment tax rates. The mass staffing reductions in taxable wages used in the calculation of the tax rates and immediate reduction in taxable payroll can make the negative impact on benefits depending on the state. So, those dollars are representative of the taxable wages that you're paying. And of course, if there was a reduction in headcount in any business, they're not actually getting as many dollars paid in and contributed as they would have prior to the pandemic. So what can you do as a business owner to prepare? The best way for business leaders to prepare for the state unemployment tax cost is to start now, identify the risk associated, and prepare a forecast for your business based on the taxable payroll that you have, and consider the impact of budget and planning and preparing accordingly. So looking out and forecasting based on, your first quarter wages and what that looks like, and consistency of that and your growth for the rest of the year, and how that cost may impact you going forward. As a professional employer organization, Oasis obviously handles state unemployment claims and the mitigation of the risk and the cost. And so human resource to mitigate, what we do is we're a human resource service that mitigates state unemployment and other related costs due to the reductions in workforce. We support the claims management with help to respond to and track claims and make sure the changes are legitimate and all the charges are disputed that are not legitimate. A PEO can also help protest the claims if necessary, and then obviously keep our clients up to date on all the state changes in response to COVID-19, as well as having a helpful guidance enabling our businesses to navigate through the changes. And something free that's complimentary to you guys, that doesn't cost anything, that you can use as part of our resources. At oasisadvantage.com, you can go in. We have a COVID-19 page that you can click on. And as being part of Paychex just won, it was just announced this week, the Stevie Award for having the best tools and communication during COVID-19. And there's a lot of free tools out there, like estimators and things for loans. There's a lot of information out there about HR and the vaccinations and all the things that we've talked about today. So I would encourage you all to take a look at the website and some of those resources under the COVID-19 banner. Also, I'm not going to go into this or read any of these, but I wanted to share with you, and you can kind of read through these yourself. We've had some great testimonials from clients in regards to how we've been able to help them through the pandemic, and obviously, and just in general, help their business grow throughout the years. And by working with the PEO like Oasis, you can save up to, the surveys are showing that you can save up to about $1,755 per employee per year for all the HR related costs, as well as fewer concerns on hiring, retaining, and motivating employees. Of course, you've got the buying power and the economies of scale from all of the employees that are under one umbrella for benefits and all the other perks and benefits that are out there. So by working with those Oasis, you can be a part of the Oasis Advantage and access employee-centric HR solutions throughout the entire employee life cycle, and we can help you with attracting and retaining talent, focusing on your core business, offering world-class employee benefits, mitigating risk, and having access to next-gen technology without having to stay up to date on all the compliance pieces. We can help you with the HR administrative tasks and duties so you can continue to run your business and get more time and money back on your side. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and Krista, I'll pass it back over to you or Daniel for any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna. My apologies. I kept losing internet connectivity, so I had to turn my phone to a hotspot. So I wasn't leaving you, Donna, on your own. I was trying to get back as quick as I could.
No problem. That must have been the beeps I kept seeing. I wasn't sure what they were.
That was me. My apologies for that. And I know we kind of have a small group today, but I know in listening, Donna, some questions that kind of came to my mind that I think have come up in the past is, do you have any suggestions of ways that you could recommend, like supporting the working parents that are working remote? Anything come to mind there? Or
yeah, so I mean, I think just really thinking about and understanding that one size doesn't fit all, and being able to get a better understanding of how you can help them manage their workload, what it is that you can do to streamline processes, through the technology, and then making sure that you pay attention to their performance and really listening and keying into what some of their development is that they would like to see in the future. I mean, that's become more and more important because obviously, if they're going to be distracted and they're going to be working from home, there may be some other needs that they have as far as maybe there's a different position within your workforce that they can do that they might be more qualified for, and just being a little bit more flexible and how you have those conversations. And then of course, whatever it is you have to do to meet whatever their goals are, but obviously the business goals as well. You've got to be, conscious of that too. If there's not an opportunity for somebody to have a flexible work schedule and work from home, then obviously, you've got to pivot and talk about other options. Maybe you have a short work week, or maybe you have a flexible work day where they work, a couple of hours from home and then come in for the rest of the day. So those are all, obviously all the conversations that you can be having with your employees.
Yeah, I think it's definitely become more of a balancing act for employers and employees, because there's so many other things going on that used to affect you in the work world.
Right.
Any suggestions as far as things that employers are having to consider as far as moving forward, keeping their employees safe?
Yeah. So, you're probably seeing a lot of new furniture, new workstations, and things like that have been rolled out. So obviously reconfiguring your workplace has become more and more important, making sure that there's shields, or there's like that if they're in a cubicle that they've got something that's blocking them and that they're at least 6 feet from somebody else. And so you're having to space it out. If you have a very small, compact office, it's obviously a little bit difficult. So you have to be really creative and figure out different ways that you can position your office to be more safe. Also restricting access to certain areas like, break rooms and kitchens, where people in the mornings would sometimes come and have their coffees and chit chat and talk amongst themselves. Maybe limiting it to 2 at a time or something like that, where there's not a big group of people that are coming together, so people feel more safe. And like the traffic flow, I know you've seen it some of the convenience stores and like retail shops, where you've got the arrows and the things that you go this direction. If you've got a pretty big office, maybe you have a certain traffic workflow and how your employees go from one door to another, or maybe you have one door that's an exit, one door that's an enter door, so just thinking about that. Other things that can be helpful is with some of your screening and temperature and all the things that you want to be, looking at as employees continue to come to work, to make sure that they're not coming to work sick, obviously, but you can incorporate into your timekeeping systems, like messaging that would ask them about their health attestation, getting them to confirm that they're, that they don't feel, sick or have a fever or any of these things, and that they sign off on it. So you can do little things like that to make the rest of your team feel more comfortable that you've put all these safety precautions in place. Obviously providing mask and, cleaning, making sure that the work environments are clean. Yeah, all of that good stuff, gloves if needed. But just having a really good protocol for all of those things.
Thank you, Donna. Does anybody else today have any additional questions or anything they'd like to jump in and ask?
I actually had a question, Donna. So you're referring to a lot of research reports in the presentation that you just gave. I was watching the footnotes on some of those slides there. Are those research summaries widely available somewhere? I saw one, of course.
We do have. So we have a published white paper that does contain all of these, the actual survey, like the real results. I mean, some of this was just a recap of some of the things that were in there as a highlight, but it goes into deep detail and it gives you all of the different. And so that's something that Krista can definitely share with you guys, or you can request. I think it's available on our website through a request. But Krista, you could send that to everyone in this group and they could get that white paper. It's very interesting. And what was very interesting to me was just to see the differences in, what the expectations are looking like for the future. Like, I mean, we kind of expected, right, that everybody was going to learn a different way to communicate. But the fact that technology, people are advancing their use of a technology, I thought was really interesting, because I've had business owners tell me for years, well, I want to do this or I want to do that. to help my employees, or I want to roll out a performance management tool that really, engages my employees. But then they never get around to doing it because it's not a priority, right? Well, this has made them take a different look at what really is a priority. And, employees has become like top of mind. And in order to make the workforce still, go and move, they've taken a step back and they've said, okay, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to focus on what it is that my employees need in order for me to be able to still do business and for them to be happier. Because obviously, if there's remote work going on across the nation and there's more jobs available and there's going to be recruiting everywhere, you're going to have to make sure your employees are happy or you're going to lose them as well, right? So that's the big scare right now. When there's people in certain roles that are in high demand, think about all of the people from the different states that are going to try to recruit them. So you're going to make sure from a benefits perspective, from an engagement perspective, and that, they see that the company cares about them and just having all those interactions. So I think that was the big game changer for me that I saw that I thought was important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely, Daniel, I can get you and anybody else that's interested a copy of the white paper that shows all the results and additional information.
Personally, I'm interested in reading it. I think for others who may be watching the recording later, it'd be helpful to have that white paper sort of as a benchmark for my company stand in comparison with others right now. Yeah.
I know that's great. A benchmark is definitely, and that's what people are looking for right now. They're like, what are other people doing? I need to know. I want to see what they're doing in comparison to what I'm doing, or what could I do differently to make a bigger impact on my employees?
Nope, I agree. And absolutely, if you can send that, then Krista, I will send that along with the video, especially since we had quite a few that even registered that weren't able to make it today. And then, as I mentioned, we will include this recording. This information was amazing. It was amazing. It really is. And so I think we need to make sure this gets out to an even wider audience. So we'll make sure this goes out in an e-blast with that request to get that white paper. So.
When you stop and think about how many companies before it was, nope, you work on site and there's no options about, working remote, and how almost all companies now have a remote work option. I mean, it's amazing how much they had to make a choice and figure out, like you said, Donna, what's really important here. Well,
the other thing too was really eye-opening and I've been seeing all kinds of activity around this over the last week, was the amount of women that are exiting the workforce. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that. So that's going to be important that we're conscious of that as employers, as we continue to look at our hiring and making sure we can accommodate the working mother.
No, I love that. And I love your comment earlier, Donna, about how businesses had to make that choice. It was always on our wish list to do certain things. And one of the things for any chamber really was, we need to get more into that digital world, the videos, the online presentations, because not everybody can be in person. But what we have seen this past year is there was this big rush at first, of course, and everybody wanted the online. And now it's like, we don't want it. But what we're seeing a demand of more is that request for the videos, the resources, on my own time, I want to be able to go out and watch the information. So I do think that we've reached the total other end of the spectrum, in which, we're trying too much to do it live when we need to focus more on just producing the videos and the webinars and getting them into the people's hands so they can see it. Me, I'd sit there at night and just turn on these webinars and be able, because I don't have the time during the day necessarily. So I agree. And that is one thing that we have pivoted on. I hate that word, but pivoted on this year is getting to be more digital. So it's been a real benefit in some ways, but I still want to be back in person.
Yeah. And and I think a lot of this has to do with, it's not just the pandemic, right? I think some of it has to do with the generations changing and the workforce of, changing. So even self-service has become like top of mind for people, like the chatbot, like having the ability to not have to pick up a phone and call somebody, which blows my mind because I've been in HR for 25 years, right? So I'm used to, if I get an email and somebody asks a question, I pick up the phone and I call them, right? but not everybody wants somebody to pick up the phone and call them. That not anymore. I mean, it used to be, but so we have to be conscious too of the generations that are coming, that are in the workforce and what they're looking and what they want to do. And I think some of that was part of the pandemic pushed that, but it pushed us in a direction that's headed for the next generation. So
That's probably a very valid point. Thank you, Donna.
I agree.
Any additional questions today? Otherwise, Donna, definitely thank you for your time today and carving it out for us here at FuseDSM. I don't know, Daniel, Trish, if you have any closing comments, those we can call to wrap, I guess.
Sure.
No,
I'd just like to point anyone to the chamber event calendar for upcoming events. We've got the Tuesday morning fuel. So if you haven't attended that, that's becoming a really hot spot for the week to connect with other chamber members. So make sure you take advantage of that. We've got our first monthly luncheon. We're bringing back the monthly luncheon now. So that is scheduled for March 9th. So make sure you take advantage of that. And another Feed Your Mind event coming up at the end of March. So take a look at the event calendar and take advantage of the opportunities that we have coming up. All right.
thank you.
Well, thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Donna,
everybody.
Krista, thank you so much for your presentation today. This has been wonderful stuff.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice meeting you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day.